afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation. We have on the dais Mr. McGinnis, Mr. Marks, and Mr. Johnson, and myself, Rebecca Hillenberg, and we are convening this meeting at 4 o'clock. First, we've done the call to order, and so second on the agenda is the communications from the public. Do we have any communications from the public? Hearing none, we will move on to number 3, which is to consider the approval of the minutes of the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation meeting held October the 12th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any more comments, questions, or considerations? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your, say aye.
Aye.
Different meeting, I'm sorry. You just kind of have to get used to me. I would like to note that at 4:01, Alton Todd is joining us on the dais, and we're glad he's here.
In the scorebook.
Pardon?
In the scorebook.
You are in the scorebook. That's the way you have to do it. Work session items, number 4A. We are asked to receive and discuss an update on the tree preservation ordinance. Stephen?
I will run through the slides here, but I'm going to turn everything over to Aubrey.
Okay.
Just wanted to give y'all an update. The Planning and Zoning Commission subcommittee did some work on the tree preservation ordinance at the request of several entities, and so they did review the ordinance and we made some changes. So I'll just kind of go over those, not in too great a detail, but so options as far as tree mitigation go. Our first preference would be to protect our existing trees. The second option is for on-site replacement if existing trees can't be kept. Option 3 would be off-site replacement if new trees will not fit on the site. And then option 4 is to pay into the tree fund if off-site location is not an option, or any combination of the above options in order to, protect and replace trees. Next slide. So factors affecting tree mitigation from city to city. We benchmarked our requirements with mainly Pearland and League City, since they're our sister cities, and our environments are somewhat similar. So the size, number, and types of existing trees on a site are a factor. The types of trees requiring mitigation. Every city's tree list is different. And then the classification of those trees as well. So those are some of the things to take into consideration when comparing the different city requirements. And just to expand a little bit on that, our current requirements, or our previous requirements, were that you identified any tree greater than 12 inches in diameter measured 4.5 feet above natural grade. Those trees had to be protected or mitigated, and so that with part of your landscape plan is to identify those trees. Our previous preservation ordinance, we just did all trees. The new ordinance you just have to mitigate class 1 and class 2 trees, which are the more like class 1 or the oak trees, big root systems, tall trees native to Friendswood. And then, so Pearland does not count palm trees, hackberries, or pine trees in their mitigation requirements, and League City doesn't count palm trees or hackberries. So those are just some of the differences there. Our new ordinance also provides credit for the removal of class 4 trees, which are invasive. So hackberries, chinaberry, so removal of those trees, you do get a little bit of credit in your mitigation. So like I said before, if you removed any tree, it didn't matter if it was 12 inches or greater, it didn't matter if it was 12 inches or 36 inches or 48 inches, the replacement was 1 3-inch tree. So our new requirements are, if you remove a 12-inch to 24-inch tree and you replace it on site, you have to replace 100% of the inches. And the minimum caliper of tree you can use to fulfill that requirement is a 4-inch tree. If you remove a 24.1 to 36-inch tree, On-site is 150% with 6-inch trees. And then anything greater than 36 inches, it's 200% on-site replacement with minimum 8-inch trees. So if you choose to pay the fee in lieu of replacing those trees, our mitigation fee is going to be $400 per caliper inch. Again, our incentives are to keep existing trees. So that's the impetus behind the requirements. So these are just two comparisons again of existing sites that have been redeveloped along Friendswood Drive recently. So 501 South Friendswood Drive had 25 on-site trees. So our amendment would require them to replace 513 caliper inches, or if they paid the fee in lieu of, it'd be $205,200. The 1401 South Friendswood Drive is where the icebox is. That would be 34 calipers and $13,600 under the new ordinance. The difference in that being the types of trees that were on the property. Icebox had a lot of pine trees. They had a lot, but they weren't huge like the ones that were on 501. And the other comparisons are just how City of Pearland's requirements would have applied in City of League City. So as you can see, our fee, if they choose to take the trees out and pay the fee in lieu of, will be similar to Pearland. I think that's it. That's all I have. If y'all have any questions, let me know.
Questions?
Does this apply businesses, parks, residents? One end of the city to the other, or is it specific to our downtown district? What?
So this applies to commercial property citywide.
Okay.
And anything, so the third reading of the ordinance was November 1st. So it's anything that takes place after November 1st.
What about any provisions of trees that die shortly after they do their site work? Because I've seen that icebox, that's what happened there. They put fill in, killed all the trees on the property.
So they actually, they removed more of their trees and paid money they paid their mitigation fees after the fact. But the ordinance does require them to maintain the trees in a living condition, I think up to a year after the issuance of their certificate of occupancy.
Any other questions? Comments? I think we can move on. Thank you, Aubrey. Well done. 4B is to receive and discuss a presentation regarding the Texas-New Mexico Power improvement opportunities in the downtown district. And I believe Mr. Sasson and Mr. Matranga are here.
Yep.
Mr. Sasson is here to present. Joe pointed distinctly at you, Richard.
Joe's going to jump in every time I mess up, so he might be here quite frequently.
It's a team effort.
Do you have the presentation?
I do, Rich, and if you'll let me know when to move forward on the slides, I'll go ahead and take care
That'll
of
work.
it for you, okay?
So there's a group of private citizens. Brett, who couldn't make it today, but Sally, Joe, and I have been meeting with Texas-New Mexico Power over the last year and a half. And we thought it was time to kind of apprise you of what we are doing, because we're kind of a little bit playing in your sandbox. And so wanted to let you know what's going on. And we have a project that we'd like to talk to you about and see if you want to put it on your long-term plans. So go ahead. So our goal today is to inform you of our discussions with TNMP to improve the appearance of downtown and highlight the opportunity to improve downtown's appearance by relocating the above-ground power lines, not surprising we're talking about power lines again, along FM 518, and then gauge your interest and your support and your level of desire on these things. Go ahead, Steve. So what happened was a year and a half ago, Brett, Joe, and I met with Sarah Jayasingh and Pauline with TNMP to look at opportunities. Our goal was to try to focus on removing obsolete poles and wires, cleaning up the look of downtown at low or no cost, We ended up taking a car ride through downtown to see the issues. At the end of the meeting, Sarah indicated she had some ideas and would get back to us on this, things we could do. TNMP has actually been a pretty good partner on this stuff. I've dealt with a couple of the different utilities. Tex-Mex, they do what they can to help us out on this kind of stuff, so we like working with them. COVID hit right after that, after March of 2020, kind of shut us down for a year and a half. So we met back in October, last month. Sarah was no longer working for TNMP, so I never did find out what those ideas were that she had. But some new players, Hector Galarza and Amanda Trail, came and met with us, the four of us again, Sally, Brett, and Joe and I. So we had four things that came out of it. We were going to go forward and investigate whether there are any unused or pole, wires, street lights that can be just plain flat removed. Anything that removes the visual look without any downside, we just should do. And we've done this before, and so we said, let's take another look and see if there's anything like that. There's a broken support pole at Stone's Throw Avenue that we informed TNMP about. We were going to identify non-working street lights. There was a perception, not my perception, that a lot of the street lights don't work. The old ones, not the new ones you guys are thinking about putting in, but the old ones that are way up high. And so the question came up, should we remove them or should we make them work? We don't use them, obviously, so what should we do? And then we discussed the outline of a major capital project to relocate power lines along FM 518. So we'll take these one at a time. When we looked at obsolete poles and wires and such, there really wasn't anything. We've been through this a couple of times. The one we did find was the banner cable at the entrance to downtown. There is some incentive to get rid of that and maybe replace it with some other way of informing the populace of things going on. I know there's an issue of the city workers having to get up there every week to replace those. There's a safety issue there. And so it would remove 2 poles and some cabling. It's really a city council issue that Sally is going to kind of address and look at, if there's appetite for that or not. There's certainly pros and cons to getting rid of it. The next one is the broken pole. Texas New Mexico said they would investigate this. I don't know if you guys have seen this right near the Quaker Church. It's been there for a while.
Yeah.
I hadn't looked at it in about 2 years. Now the angle has changed a little bit worse, so it's not fixing itself. And so they said they would get on it. I trust them to do that. The non-working streetlights. So we met with Morad and Steve Ray to discuss the pros and cons of removing versus repairing the working streetlights. Joe Matranga took me out on a tour of downtown to survey the streetlights. There are 26 lights, for your information, the ones wheel up high. Almost all 26 are different. They've been grown organically, I suspect. So there's no consistent pattern on them, but they tend to be very high. 14 of the 26 aren't working. Yeah, I'm like you, Rebecca. I was surprised. And we pay a monthly bill whether they work or not. Right. So we looked at those and we saw that 3 of them, if you decided to get rid of them, 3 of them would allow you to remove some wiring. Some of them are right on the power pole, so they don't really affect, having cables going across. But 3 of them do have wires going across. And 2 of them are on their own dedicated poles, so we could remove 2 telephone poles if we got rid of those 3. So the decision to repair or remove is still in progress. I don't know, Steve, if you guys haven't made any decisions or anything on that?
No, sir.
Okay, fair enough. My suggestion, just standing here in the bully pulpit here, is we might think about getting rid of the 3 that actually improve the look and get the others fixed. But we could get rid of them all because you guys are in the process of putting in new lights anyway. I'm not sure how far away that is. We've clearly been living without them for a long time. And this is a survey of where they all are. Joe is good at spreadsheets, so he kept up with where they are and such like that. Then we were impressed and surprised when Hector came out with a big drawing that he didn't give us, but he showed us briefly, of how they would remove the power lines conceptually from the other side of the freeway. So, and the concept was to not to bury the lines, which they said would be prohibitively expensive, and it's fairly congested under there. There would be some sections buried, but mostly they would split and go to either side of 518 on existing power poles that are a couple of blocks away from 518. So basically remove the visual look of it. They estimated it'd be about $4.9 million for this work. Just to remind you, if you got rid of the power, you wouldn't be able to get rid of the telephone poles until you got rid of the cables. And there's a lot of cables, and they're different companies. AT&T, Comcast, there's at least 3 companies, maybe more. So you guys already went through that a couple of years ago. You have the feel for what that costs, probably a couple of $100,000 each. So we're probably, talking maybe more. It was, last time it was, I think, 80 and 120 for the 2 sections we did. So it was 200,000 to do the AT&T on the other side. But these are a little longer, and you're right, Paul, it probably is a little bit more. And everything costs more. And also, since this is a preliminary estimate, there may also be additional TNMP costs. It's been my experience that the first estimate is always the one that you look back and you say, how did we ever think we could do it for that? But we don't know. So the next slide is what it looks like now. And thanks to my daughter, that's what it would look like without it. And so it would clean up the look quite a bit. It would be desirable. You can look on the other side and see that it looks pretty clean now. And by splitting the cables to both sides, they would backfeed, and the lines that go across the freeway, 518, would also go away. So you'd lose a lot of that look of congestion and such that comes in now. So our thought was that the downtown district would never get the look we all desire until the power lines are removed. It's never going to look like the downtown that we want. And just a side benefit, if you got rid of these power lines, you'd allow shade trees to be planted, which we can't do right now because the power lines are in the way. And so it would make it a little bit more walkable. And then Brett had given us a copy of an old 1969 P&Z report to the city, and it was interesting. Joe pointed out that this was the highlight of one of their recommendations, that the power pole should be removed and lines run underground. This was 1969. So it's over 50 years later, this has been around. They also talked about the lights along Friendswood should be replaced with standardized lights. So you guys are ahead of the curve on that one. So we'll get 1 out of 2. Well, we're making progress. We are. And we have funding now, which we haven't had for a very long time. So we have an opportunity that we didn't have. So basically, you guys have a queue of things that you want to do for downtown, and we'd just like to put a plug in for this one to be on your list, to be something that you keep in mind. Obviously, it would take several years of revenue to pay for this, and I don't know if there is matching funds from some source or something of that sort. Joe did talk to Tex-to-Mex about whether there was any way to put this into the rate base, and they kind of laughed at us. But it was a worthwhile question. What did I leave out, guys? Anything? No. Sally? Okay. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask any of us.
Richard, I'd like to say thank you. You have been a soldier for getting those.
We have.
You have. Okay. You all have. To
Yeah.
get that taken care of and to make downtown look like we want it to look.
Thank you.
Questions, comments? Paul? I'm
Pat.
Pat. Sorry.
Did your group
Pat.
happen to extend beyond the downtown district by a few blocks? I mean, if you go north, even though it's...
On 23, past
Yeah.
2351?
Yeah.
We didn't ask about that. We kept the discussions just to the downtown district. We could have, but yeah.
Well, that's where we're allowed to spend money, but it's
Oh, are you?
It's kind of continuous.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Well, we are only allowed to spend money in the downtown district.
South
but-
of 2351.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So this
Whatever.
was going to be right at 2351 and split there.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Another question?
Well, the only thing, just an observation, really appreciate what you've done.
Yes.
This has been an objective for a long, long, long time.
Absolutely.
And it won't get started until it starts. And I'm sure glad someone like you and your group is looking into this. But it's something I strong to believe that this group would be very, very interested in pursuing.
Good.
It is a matter of money, but you got to start somewhere.
Thank you.
In regards to, we don't have all that money. We're going to work to continue to get some. But one of the
Aubrey said she'd go to
questions-
Chick-fil-A twice a day.
Who?
Aubrey, to try to raise more revenue. She's doing her
Okay.
part.
We could save gas too. I want to ask, and Paul would probably be my authority on this. The question I have that I just want to kind of put out there is, we don't want to redo anything. So I'm asking about the importance of sequencing. You know, as we progress with our projects, and then we get down the road and want to do this and get the cabling and everything down, I don't want to create problems for what we've already finished. So my question becomes in the importance of sequencing. How do these fall together? I have no idea.
As far as the different sections.
Well,
of
just
building,
in other words, can we go ahead and proceed with putting in our lights and what we're doing without, then when we come back and we have the money to take the cables down, will that, taking the cables down, will we get in the way of our own work? Does that
I
make
don't-
sense?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Just like the services, moving the poles back. I was talking to Stephen about this earlier. It's not just the poles, it's all the services for the businesses that have to be relocated as well. And it's just a matter of relocating those services for the streetlights. So really, that's all it is. And that's just a,
Years, it may all be wireless anyway.
it could be.
That'd be nice. But we still have to pay the money to get them down, probably. So, okay,
I don't foresee any problems with that.
good.
We purposely didn't bring TNMP to this meeting because we didn't want to get bogged down in details, just wanted to talk to you about high level, what's going on. But if that was something that you wanted to have, kind of get into the meat a little bit more about what they're actually thinking, we can, I'm sure they would be willing to come out and talk.
Great.
Yeah, you should have. You should have.
Say again?
Does TNMP have any incentive to have skin in the game? Do they want to contribute money to this big project or work in kind? I mean, do they have a business reason for wanting to do this now?
I was wondering about that, Patrick. And I'm not an expert on power systems, but it seems like if you split the two feeders and they each have enough power to carry it all, then you've actually made your system slightly more reliable for the mile or mile and a half that's through downtown, because now you have split feeds. But that's me surmising. That's not TNMP saying that.
The topic, no, it snuck up behind you. But the topic did come up, and we did talk about that some. But they really felt like this was meeting all their current requirements, their obligation to supply their customers as is. And so this alternative method really doesn't add a lot. So no, it's not something that they would contribute to or be allowed to contribute to. That's the impression we got in our meeting.
Right, and if they did that for Friendswood, they would, every city around would want the same thing, so they, understand why they won't do it.
Right. No, but it's a good question.
Yeah, and exploring some way of getting some part of this shared with somebody else would be really nice. Have you leveraged up the sidewalks? And well, that's almost all leverage. But so yes, it would be worthwhile, but we haven't been able to crack that nut ourselves yet. Yeah.
But it's something we can continually look at and keep in the forefront.
Well, that was really the biggest thing, was to make everybody on your board aware of it, what the project, and that it was out there, and so not one more opportunity just to put into your bag of things to consider.
It will not go off the list.
Perfect.
Let's put it that
That was
way.
our goal.
It's not an action item, so we can't make it a vote.
No.
But, we'll keep it in our awareness. And
Perfect.
we greatly appreciate your efforts. And come back anytime and don't let us forget this. Is that fair?
Very.
Thank you. Moving down to number 5, which is discussion and possible actions, which means these could be action items. A is to discuss and take action regarding the downtown signage and branding project. Stephen?
So I have just a few updates here. We do have a tentative approval from the area engineer from TxDOT on the color scheme. which is one of the approvals we've been waiting on. He did make it known that this is not a final permitted approval from the downtown office, but we should be receiving that at any moment, which is what we have been told for a few weeks now. So hopefully it will get here sooner than later. But that is good news. And then additionally, in speaking with the area engineer, if you recall, originally they wanted to go ahead and put up the new signs as part of the project, just the standard white letter on green signs, and then to have the city go in at a later date and put in the new color scheme signs. In conversations with them, they've now let us know that if we can get the signs manufactured, that they can go in with the new mast arms. So if the it makes sense in sequencing. If we can get the signs made, that's not going to be an issue. And so as soon as we know we do have the final permanent approval on the color scheme, we can work on getting the signs made and have them ready to go. So as soon as the mast arms do go up, we can have the new signage put up as well.
That's exciting. Anything else? Any other comments?
I have just one other slide on this. I
Okay.
believe we have been in conversations about getting some of the blanks, the sign that's sent or that's seen up on the screen here. These are for your basic regular street intersections in the downtown district. In speaking with Mr. Brunner, who is our sign tech over in Public Works, the signs that were originally spec'd out in the downtown implementation plan do not meet the required specs for downtown, so we're hunting the proper size so we can make sure that we're good from the get-go. As soon as we can get a price for the blanks, I'll present that to the board, and we can kind of make a path forward on how to go ahead and get the signs replaced.
Excellent.
And then the sign machine that we've purchased has been set up, it's complete, and training starts next week with staff. And so hopefully by next month or so, we can have some of this ironed out to where we know exactly what it's going to take, how long it's going to take, and how many of these we can manufacture and get installed.
Excellent. Any comments?
I got a question. The sidewalk project is coming along. They've done a lot of great work. There are many businesses along that side of the street that still have the paver stone looking stuff in front of them, like in front of Tanis's building, the Houston Methodist, Hometown Bank, Huntington Woods Apartments. They still have the old sidewalks there. Are those going to come up or not?
No.
No. And we can touch on that. And just for the benefit of the group, now that the three projects, if you recall, they've all been kind of lumped under one heading moving forward. Now that they've all kind of taken on their own life and they're moving through, we've split these up on the agenda. And so item 5A was just to speak about the signage and branding. We will get to the sidewalks, and I'll answer your question.
I jumped the gun. Yeah.
Yeah, no
No,
problem
you're
at all.
fine.
But to your question, no, if the existing sidewalks are going to remain if they're in good condition. So especially those that were just installed as part of a downtown project.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Stephen.
Yes, sir.
At this point, there is no action to be taken on this item because nothing has been presented in that regards. So let's move on to B, which is discuss and take possible action regarding the downtown lighting plan.
So we've all been waiting on some magic numbers from the engineering department, and in this case, both HDR and Gandy Lighting Design. We've been waiting on some engineers' estimates from HDR on some of the infrastructure that has to be in place. So those estimates came back at $738,534. So this is everything except for the actual poles and fixtures themselves. So this is the cable, this is anything else that goes along with that infrastructure. We are waiting on Gandy Lighting and Design to give us updated pricing on the poles. And so once we can get those numbers, we can plug them in. We know how many fixtures we need. We can plug them in, and we'll have an overall estimate, which will help us, I think, gauge going forward with the RFP process. We'll know at that point if whether or not there's going to be enough money to pay for this outright potentially, or if it needs to be some kind of a phased plan moving forward. So those are some pretty important numbers that we get, and I'm happy to get the numbers from HDR. We have been waiting on those for a while, and so we've been working with Lance and trying to push him a little bit to go ahead and get us some updated numbers. Additionally, we have, staff continues to present any chance we get to folks about the downtown lighting. Just last week, we gave an update on all the projects, lighting included, to the CEDC. And we are looking to present at hopefully the December, if not the January, FDFA, Friends of Downtown Friendswood meeting, which, you know, lo and behold, seems to be a very smart place to go since they're all associated with downtown.
It's a
When
very
will it-
smart move.
When will it be ready to be put out for bid?
I'm sorry, sir?
When will it be ready for bid?
So we have the design documents from HDR. We have, our engineering group is, the city's engineering department is currently going through those to make sure that we have everything needed, kind of a turnkey. And then we need to get the numbers from Mr. Gandy. Once we can get all that and make sure it is a full package, we can go ahead and put it in an RFP form that we can then advertise. So hopefully by the end of the year, if not early next, we can get a package out to be advertised and we can start getting bids.
And the bid process takes how long, Stephen?
If it works out, 30, 60 days, maybe 90 depending. A lot of times what'll happen is you will put one of these bids out and no matter how many people have looked at it, no matter how many people have touched on it, some of these contractors that do it for a living, they will come back with additional questions that we need to pick and choose and find some information for. And so sometimes they can be extended out just depending on how long it takes us to obtain that information.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to go back to one thing that you said about presenting this to different groups and organizations. If it's appropriate, you and Aubrey feel that it's appropriate, and you want a board member there, let us know, and we'll work to make the effort to be there.
Yes, ma'am.
I know Pat would be willing to, I know all of us would be willing to go. And sometimes, even though you're doing all of the presenting, it might be nice to have one of us there.
Absolutely.
So just keep that in mind. With that, we're now moving to discuss and take possible action regarding the TxDOT curbs, ramps, sidewalks, and traffic signals project.
So just some quick updates. I went and took some new pictures this morning. Hopefully they're clear enough up there. Just trying to highlight some of the areas where some of the old sidewalks have met some of the new sidewalks, and we have some nice transitions. So our walkability is getting, or is progressing more and more each day as this goes on. Granted, this is not the final project or final product that's been put out, but this is well, a long ways from, or it's come a long ways since they started. One thing I did want to point out here, especially in the picture to your right, if you're looking at the monitor, you can notice that sidewalk is up against the curb.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a paver there. This is due just to site conditions, due to the narrowness of the right-of-way. You'll notice that a lot of the sidewalks on this on this end of 518 do have a spot on both sides of the sidewalk. The right-of-way narrows the closer you get to 2351. And so as they move down between the right-of-way and then existing conditions with existing businesses, they do have to narrow that sidewalk. And what's going to be lost is going to be the portion that they don't consider ADA compliant, which is the brick paver. They will have the paver on the outside of this sidewalk and in the future sidewalks as long as the right-of-way can maintain it. And so here, this is
Thank
just.
you for that explanation, Steve.
No problem. And this year, I just wanted to point out that the demo work on some of the existing sidewalks has now advanced to the opposite side of 2351. So they are making quick progress. They were outside actually measuring that driveway that can be seen in the right-hand picture there on the screen to make sure that they were out there getting their numbers straight. And they're moving along at a pretty quick clip. And then I did want to point out on the left here, that is an area that had I wanted to try to hunt down the original picture I had, but that was a horrible sidewalk right there on the left-hand picture for many years. And now that it's come in, it's nice and clean and crisp with a nice curb ramp. And your picture to the right was more to showcase the new sidewalk and how far they've made it down the street. You will notice that there is an asphalt driveway there. There has been some questions asked to TxDOT and the other contractor about these asphalt sidewalks, and you'll you can notice that these are at businesses that previously had asphalt driveways. We've asked if they could go back to concrete, and the explanation that we've been given is, number one, no, because of the condition of the existing parking lots with these asphalt parking lots. The addition of a concrete apron and drive, that joint where the concrete and the asphalt would meet, would ultimately fail, and it would happen pretty quick just based upon the traffic that goes over and the weight that's put on that joint. And so basically you would end up with a pothole right there. And so that's the reasoning behind it.
I've got a question on the street light. I'm sorry, the sidewalk.
Yes, sir.
In front of Friendswood Grocery, there's a sidewalk that kind of zigzags around some hackberry trees. Is that going to be removed? Because those trees look like they need to be removed.
I would have to go back and look to see if it's going to be removed as part of the plan. We did get a notification from the owner of that site that if those trees needed to come out, that he has zero issue with that. But I need to go back and look at the TxDOT plan to see if they are going to put in sidewalks there just for that specific site.
Yeah, it doesn't look good the way it is now.
Thank you, Paul. Any other questions or comments? Good. Thank you very much, Stephen. You and Aubrey have done an excellent job presenting this today. Moving on to 6A, which is to receive and discuss the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation financial report for October 2021.
And so this is just to point out that the beginning fund balance in October was $2,233,859. The revenue for October of 2021 was just over $56,000, and it's been great. That's been kind of the clip that it's been running for the last year or so, anywhere between $50,000 and $60,000 a year. And then with an ending fund balance for October of 2021 of $2,288,882.
Good job. And that's a nice number.
Very nice number.
Isn't it nice? Remember when we were looking at it below 500,000? Comments or questions? All right. Aubrey, do you have any comments that you would like to make?
Just wanted to let everybody know that we do have a couple of zone changes going through that are for Brett Banfield's properties. He has applied to change the zoning of his office building to the downtown district. So he can gain the benefits of permit fees being waived and things like that for his property. And then also the specific use permit request for the hotel is going through the process as well. It's been through planning and zoning, got a positive recommendation, and city council, we did public hearing, and they've approved first reading of the ordinance. So second reading will be on for December 6th. So that's looking positive.
Excellent. Stephen, do you have any comments?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Comments from board members? Go, Pat.
Well, based on our discussion earlier about TNMP, it occurred to me maybe we ought to ask our city council members present about extending the downtown district beyond 2351, because we do have businesses that are there that are contiguous with our current downtown district. I wonder, for a longer term, that might, some of our projects in the future could apply to
On
that
those
as well.
ends.
And that would be a beautification for the whole city as well. So I don't know what's involved with extending the downtown district, but maybe that's a reasonable idea.
Good idea. I was driving down 518 the other day and I thought, oh, this isn't in the downtown district. Have you done that too?
So I would
Comment.
defer to Audrey because we've already done this once.
I-
Great property, and
What?
it was big, hairy, audacious goal.
I would say to extend the sales tax funds to another boundary, it would require another election. Because the approval of that election was based on the current boundary. So we did expand the boundary for one property, and you can't spend money on that property.
So
Thank you.
It's included in downtown, but the downtown dollars can't be spent on it without another election.
Yes.
Good information, but still something to consider. Paul?
I'm good.
Okay. Bubba?
I apologize for not attending the city council last meeting, but we had an item on the consent agenda to donate funds to the Historical Society.
Yes, we did.
Is that passed?
Yes, it was.
I apologize. Yes, I should have mentioned that the item that you, the group approved to move on to city council for the $1,000 donation to the Friendswood Historical Society did pass
Awesome.
at council.
Okay, that's the only other thing I had.
Thank you. Alton?
One thing I would add is, it's nice, Madam President, to attend your inaugural.
Turn your mic on.
And make sure you get record of this, right?
Yeah, they wanna make sure yes, I want this. Here, speak right here, please, Alton.
No, I just wanted to thank you and glad to attend your inaugural meeting as Madam President.
You're so kind. Thank you. Well, it has been a privilege, and one thing that I don't like to dilly-dally, and let's move the agenda along. That's just the way I like to run a meeting, and let's save everyone's time. And I so appreciate the support that I've received for my first meeting. Stephen, thank you a lot. And we just all remember that we're here to serve. And we want to help you and Aubrey and anyone else. And we want to make sure this is done to the best for the city of Friendswood. So thank you. Thanks, Alton. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. Do we need, I don't remember, I'm sorry. Do we need a motion to
No,
adjourn?
you can adjourn.
Pardon?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. We are adjourned. Thank you.